Screen ruling. The finer the line screen used, the more dots an image holds, and thus the greater the tonal range, assuming the image is holding enough resolution. Contrast. Contrast is a method by which humans detect difference and depth and difference. A difference in contrast is defined as the tonal nuances between the grayscale values that establish a degree of variation between subtle details possessed in your image. Note that most human features fall between tonal ranges of 5 and 6. The wider the total contrast range your image possesses, the easier it is perceived. Lighting and exposure. The amount and manner of lighting and exposure used by the photographer determines an image's separation between subject and background. Overexposure results in too much light, blowing out the highlights and the middle tones. Underexposure results in too much shadow and a loss of detail. Both result in a lack of contrast and detail information. Focus. Sharp focus is a requirement of any image used to convey detail. An appropriate use of depth of field and focus is key to maintaining a high level of image detail. To emphasize an element, sharpen the focus. To de-emphasize an element, soften the focus. Paper and information detail. For best reproduction, the image should possess a maximum amount of information reproducibility by your selected method of reproduction. A finer line screen does not always yield a better reproduction result. Rough, uncoated paper readily absorbs ink, which may result in an ink spread and fuzzy reproduction qualities. Fine screens will plug image details on uncoated paper, resulting in some loss of tonal separation. Newsprint is usually run at 85 to 110 line screens for this reason. Fine screens work well on smooth coated stock, where the stock affords high ink holdout, retaining sharp dot edges and open clean spaces. This is why a soft focus feel is preferred. Most photographic images are printed on coated stock for best results. A coated smooth paper surface will yield superior resolution quality over textured uncoated surface. Uncoated papers deliver a softened effect when printed. Note that the finer the screen used, the more care and control must be used in the print alignment. Paper reflectance and ink contrast. Brighter papers allow for a wider tonality ranges. The darker the paper, the more compressed your tonal range will be, particularly in the dark ranges. Shadows can print no darker than the maximum density of the ink used. Highlights can print no lighter than the brightness of the paper used. Retouching. Almost any image can benefit from some visual adjustments or retouching. Generally, less is more unless you are an illustrator. Print reproduction. The quality of your printed piece relies on many factors, including the amount of ink, the fountain solution balance, the condition of the assortment of plates, blankets, mechanical condition of the press, and the skill of the pressman. You must expect some loss in the form of dot gain in the transfer of any image, resulting in increased contrast. Let's talk about ink and water mix. Too much ink and not enough water will cause what's called scumming or slurring. In scumming, the plate picks up the ink in its clear areas and applies it to the non-image areas of the sheet. In slurring, the dots are distorted in the direction of the press run, causing shadows to fill in and fringe to appear on the rear edges of solids. With too much water and not enough ink, halftones become gray and weak. The pH level. In offset lithography, when the pH level of your water solution is too high, the image wears away, causing dot erosion or sharpening. When the water solution pH is too low, the image appears weak overall. Ink viscosity. Viscosity is a measurement of ink tact and flow. Ink becomes too tacky due to insufficient solvent or dampening water, or due to drying out during the make-ready process. This causes the ink to pull off, pick, or tear the paper. Set-off. Ink set-off is wet ink transferred from one sheet to the next sheet as sheets come off the press and are stacked. Plate and blanket packing. Over packed plates, print halftone dots with long, flattened dots. Blanket slippage causes streaking. Underpacking produces a weak dot. Impression cylinder. Excessive pressure on the impression cylinder may cause the blanket to slip against the paper, creating slurs. Dot distortion in the direction of the press run will occur. Checking the print quality. Are the printing plates in register? Is the color right? Are the edges crisp? Are the skin tones correct? Are you missing any images? Does the reverse type fill in? Is the ink coverage too light or too heavy? Check for hot spots, broken type, or dirt or dust specks. Does this match your proof? Is there ghosting problems? Is the paper stock and signature correct? These are things I have to look for. And your make ready. This is the first step on press, is called the make ready. Here the pressman is adjusting the color and getting the registration right on your job. After the pressman is comfortable with the color and registration, he will hand you a sheet called a pull. This is a make ready or a reader sheet that pulls off the press while the press is running. If the customer will see your package in a retail store under fluorescent lighting, not the mercury lights in the print shop and not the blue lights outside in the sun, proof your work under a fluorescent light or a color-corrected light. Begin the press run. Tell your pressman what you want to achieve, not how to do his job. Chances are he has more experience running the press than you do. Once you sign off with your approval on the make ready, the printer will run your job on press. After make ready, the press speed is increased and the color registration settles. You will generally see a cleaner sheet once the press gets up and running to speed. During the press run, the pressman's job is to maintain color consistency throughout the run. To do this, the printer uses a densitometer to check each individual color level on the color bars at different intervals across the sheet. Consistency checks. Tip: use the old printer's trick is to cut a pulled sheet in half in the opposite direction that the press is running from the beginning of the run, and laying it over a sheet from the middle and of course the end of the print run to assure that the color and registration are consistent across the entire print run. Always check your color consistency at various intervals during the press run. This will allow you to perceive any color shifting. Always number the sheets, pull the intervals along with your request revisions so that you have a time frame and a reference for future viewing pulls across the press run. Fold or cut the sheets out from the signature that you have so that you can view them as spreads as you assess color. Take an additional densitometer reading every 500 or 1,000 sheets. Magenta and cyan should be about equal in density, yellow should be weaker, and black should be the heaviest coverage. Retain a copy of your sheet for approval files, just so you'll have them for later on.